The next camera we're going to look at then is going to be the DC2000. Just charging the battery over here. Of which you always carry at least 3 batteries with you of each one. So. Inside the housing, the camera is going to be depth rated to 200 feet. The inner camera is depth rated to 60 feet without the housing around it. So we don't advocate that people go diving with this. It's primarily just in case the housing starts to flood. Your camera is going to be safe. Probably you'll notice the bubbles coming out of the housing or something like that. So you'll know to come back up and get your camera in. You can take it, just again, we don't advocate it. The inside of the housing has got a red O-ring around the outside. Used to be a black O-ring inside a black housing. And sometimes you couldn't tell if it was in there or if it was really positioned well or not, so we made it bright red so everybody can really see it. Again, with huskies and salt and everything else, this does need to be cleaned, but do not use lubricant on it. Because of the clamshell closing mechanism to it, we don't have to lubricate this. It is a silicone O-ring already, so it won't take any type of a set. Sometimes after travel or on hot, steamy days, you open the housing and the O-ring may pop out of the groove. It's no big deal. Just tap it back down into place, and you should be ready to go once again. Also, when the cameras are charging and discharging, they get very, very hot. And so we have a place up here. I don't have one with me, but it's a little tube of desiccant called a moisture muncher. They come in a little pack. They've got 10 of them. Don't open it yet. Unfortunately, when you open the pack and expose it to moisture, they're going to start absorbing moisture right away. They come out baby blue. When they turn pink, toss them. I've tried microwaving them, slow baking them, putting them in a bag of rice. Nothing revives them.
I have something called an EvaDry. It's about guinea pig.
Okay.
They're actually plug in and you can reuse them over and over and over for safes, gun cabinets, whatever.
Oh, okay.
So the heat, when they're reconditioning themselves, when you're done charging those, the 24 hours, you take them off, you throw them in like a little Glad plastic thing.
Mm-hmm.
You can throw those little moisture munchers in there,
Okay.
bright blue again.
Okay.
It literally sucks all the moisture back out of them,
Okay.
and they're totally reusable.
Okay. I stand corrected.
It's called EvaDry. I learned it by accident. I had a handful of them after my trip, and I thought, well, I don't want to throw all these away.
Okay.
That's hot. Let's throw it in there and see what happens.
Okay.
Dry.
Very good.
So there's a cheat for you.
There you go, everybody. To extend the life of your moisture muncher when you're down in the islands or someplace with a lot of humidity, put the camera inside the housing in an air-conditioned room. If you're down on the boat and you close it up, you just trapped all that hot, humid air inside there. It's going to start getting hot, and it's going to give you a little bit of a dime-sized piece of steam right in the middle of your barrel, ruin all your pictures, ruin all your videos, everything else. So, when you go to put the camera back in here, we also, anybody shooting DSLRs?
Yes.
Okay. We have a dial very similar to the back of a DSLR camera. There's corresponding dial on the back of the camera. Okay. So what you want to do is make sure that this indicator matches the one on the back of the camera. So right now I'm in the fish mode, and I'm on the fish mode, so everything is good. If this happened to be set in the program mode, and I had this in the fish mode, it's not going to sync up. You can still get to everything, it's just a little more confusing. So I'm just going to make sure that this dial matches the dial on the back of the camera. I'm going to drop my camera in here. I'm going to check my O-ring one more time, make sure there's nothing laying across the side of it. Instead of using the latching mechanism to close this, I'm going to pinch this with my fingers. If that O-ring is out of the groove even just a little bit, I'm going to be able to feel the resistance with my hands. If you're relying on leverage to close this, you may not know there's an issue, jump in the water and flood your camera. So as soon as you get this nice and closed, push that shut. Now we're ready to go to 200 feet. Again, the DC2000 is a 20 megapixel camera. We are shooting 1080p HD video. At this point, we don't feel that 4K is really all that essential. A lot of it, unless you have specific playbacks for it, is kind of overkill. It really chews up your storage space, everything else with it. So we are at just 1080p. The camera does have the capabilities, just like high-end DSLR qualities, of going into an aperture priority. And does everybody understand the aperture and shutter speeds of camera? Basically the two main features of photography. The aperture is how big is your eyeball? How much light is coming back into the camera? Photography is Latin for the creation of images using light. So the more light you can put on your subject, the better your pictures are going to be. So with an aperture, we have, everybody's heard of the term f-stops. We have 13 f-stops starting at a 1.8, which is wide open. That means it's a very fast lens. You can take a picture at low light, low capability. And then we go up to an f-stop of 13. And there's mechanical vanes that physically open and close the aperture, so you're getting exactly the setting that you dial in. In the aperture priority setting, you would tell the camera how big you want, how much light you want coming back into the camera. The camera will automatically choose a shutter speed for you so that you get a good picture. It's pretty cool, semi-automatic. We can go into shutter speed from 1/2000th of a second up to 15 seconds. So if you're trying to catch a soccer ball flying through the air, you can go into the sport mode and turn it at 1/2000th of a second, or you can put it on a tripod, turn it on for 15 seconds, and catch a fireworks display. So all sorts of different things you can do. So you've got that range from 1/2000th of a second up to 15 seconds. A lot of the professional shooters like to take full manual control of their camera, where you choose the f-stop and shutter speed. We can do that with this camera now also. So it's a very, very powerful little point-and-shoot camera. The camera does shoot, as well as the Micro 2.0, in what's called a JPEG format. Does everybody know what JPEG, and heard the term JPEG and RAW? Okay. The camera does shoot JPEG, but we can turn it into a RAW format also. So what that's meaning is that a 20 megapixel camera, there's 20 million points of light in each picture. We can adjust each one of those 20 million points of light if we have the desire to and the patience to do it. But you can certainly do huge photography. Blow-ups like this is no problem with a camera with 20 megapixels to it as well. So some pretty cool stuff. Again, we do have the full piano key system. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll just continue going through here. Has anybody ever seen the pictures that are real long and skinny? They're taken in a panoramic setting. We have a panoramic setting in here that we can do from 120 to 180 to a complete 360-degree panoramic picture. We can also do vertical pictures. So we could start out doing dive boat, water, 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 reef, 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 water, 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 sky, 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 and come back across the boat. So you can have a horizontal or a vertical picture as well in panoramic. With the Micro 2.0, we have one land setting. With this camera, in the scene mode, we have 27 pre-programmed in land settings. We've got fast water, slow water, snow, beach, pets. 1.2 billion pictures a day are taken on iPhones or on cell phones. Most of them are selfies and pictures of people's food. We have a food setting on here. So based on prior experience with plates of lasagna at an f-stop of 3.2 and a shutter speed of a 60th of a second, you'll get a good exposure of your food. I'm making that up. So it is a tremendous land camera for us as well. For land settings, if you don't want to go through the different land settings, you can put the camera into iIntelligent or iCamera, and the camera will try and determine your shooting mode for you and make all of the proper adjustments and everything else. The camera's really very clever. Of course, being an underwater camera company, we have the fish mode, and so this is going to be our underwater photography modes. Just like with the Micro 2.0, we are going to have color correction built into the camera. So depths of greater than 25 feet would be a dive setting, less than 25 feet is snorkeling. With the DC2000, we have the capability of firing a strobe. With the Micro 2.0, we don't, and so we're reliant on full-time constant on photo video lights. But the strobe is, everybody knows what the going into a disco or turning on a strobe light and you watch people go along, it just is complete stop action. So if you ever have a little itty-bitty drumfish that's flitting around and you can't get a picture of it, you blast him with a strobe and that's going to just stop him in mid-swim. So this camera can fire a strobe. The way this is going to work is, has anybody heard the term TTL or through the lens? Now the camera and strobes would be actively sharing information back and forth. Say, okay, well I think I'm going to use an aperture of this, so the strobe would say, well I'm going to apply this much flash, blah, blah, blah. Well what's going to happen now is the onboard flash on the camera is going to fire. It comes out of this light with the diffuser on it and is captured by a flash link adapter that has a fiber optic cable in it. So this just goes right over the top. The onboard flash fires is captured by the fiber optic cable that is a tube of glass surrounded by plastic. As soon as the shutter is open on this, this triggers the strobe at the instant the shutter is open, and you get stop action photography. Also, this is a 3000 lumen light. When a strobe fires at full power, you're going to be looking at about 24 to 25,000 lumens. So this is going to be 8 times brighter than this. This is where you get the real deep penetrating colors along with the stop action. Now what's neat with this also is we have the ability of controlling how intense the light is. So we can go from 1 to 100% in 1% increments. So if you have a specific shot that you really want to make sure you get, you can blow your entire tank and just sit there and keep adjusting 1% increments until you get the perfect exposure. Somebody comes up and says, I'm going diving in the Bahamas next week. What's the best way to set my camera up? I don't know. When you take your underwater photography course, you're going to hear the initials SEA. Stands for shoot, evaluate, and adjust. So you can either change the f-stop on your camera, you can adjust the intensity of your strobe, all sorts of different things to come up with a good picture. So we allow you to cheat. And we can put the strobe into an automatic setting. That activates the black light sensor up on the front of your strobe. So if this is pointed directly at my subject, in 35 thousandths of a second, this will know how much flash to apply for me. With underwater or with digital photography, usually you have to push the shutter button halfway down to get some type of a focus indication to it. Usually a little box turns green or something like that. By the time you get that green box, this knows how much flash to apply. So what we can do is, first off, I can make the camera as sophisticated as you want, or I can come into the underwater scene mode and activate my strobe and my photo video light. The photo video light is going to be a 3000 lumen light. So there's my 3000 lumens. You can see again it's all the way clear out. It just tapers off at the edge of the light. 3000 lumens, 1500, 750. But now I've got another light sensor on the front of this that is going to allow me, as I get closer to my subjects, camera's going to automatically dim for me.
Very cool.
So as I start coming back out again, the light gets brighter. So what I'm going to do, in the easiest setting to do this camera system, I'm going to put this light in automatic. I'm going to put my strobe in automatic. I'm going to come into my subject. This light is